Okay. So
Yeah,
Adonai Olam.
yeah. I always thought that was it says morning blessings, but it's funny you always kind of do it at the end of the service. So I've always never really thought about it as like a
It's interesting. We do it at the end. You're right. That's how I like to do it at the end, but it actually is printed in the Siddur at the beginning,
true. Yeah,
right?
it's yeah. Adonai was like Adoni. It's like Sir, like
Yeah, master of the world. That's what it
of the
means.
world. Yeah. So um, I never associated it with the. But you're right. My sister's downstairs, but it is. I think it isn't. Yeah. Well, I don't think
I wonder why we started saying it at the end. Probably because people didn't say it at the beginning.
so. Maybe.
So, if you come late and you miss it out, so then you get it at the end instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's the first. That's what. That's the first thing. That's the first part of the morning blessings.
Yeah. Let's read it through. If I've got the English here for Adonai Olam, yeah? What it
Yeah.
starts with.
Yeah. Yeah. So the eternal is the Lord of the universe, who reigned before any being was created. When all he had brought into being by his will, then was his name called King. And even were all to come to an end, he, the awesome one, would reign alone, for he is, and he will remain in splendor. He is one, and there is no other to compare to him, to associate with him. He is without beginning, without end. To him belongs strength and authority. He is my God, my Redeemer lives, the rock of my plight in time of distress. He is my banner and my refuge for me, the portion in my cup on the day I call. Into his hand do I entrust my spirit when I sleep and I awaken. Thus, with my spirit will be my body. The eternal is with me, hence I shall not fear. That must be the lawyer you are. I've never actually looked at the English translation before.
Yeah.
It's always been
Song.
like a song, and and it's like
Yeah.
not a yeah. Um, so it's literally starts off. This is kind of how I more imagine like traditional like praying brachot to be like about you're recognizing the awesome like the totality the higher
Yeah.
the higher being I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm trying to kind of like, isn't it, as I'm reading it, I'm trying to kind of see a structure. You know what I mean? It's hard to see.
I think there is one though. I think it's just about recognition and saying that this is something that's been since the beginning and it'll be there till the end. And what maybe there is no end, I don't know. And
I know, but there must be a beginning, middle, and end of the passage, kind of the paragraph.
uh, the Lord, it rained, everything came to being.
You know
Uh,
what? It sounds like at the beginning, it's quite universal, right? Hashem is Lord of the universe,
yeah,
right? He was here before everything, yeah?
yeah,
He's going to be here after everything, yeah?
yeah,
Meaning that's like God as like, whoa,
one,
up there,
yeah,
before the world. He's nothing to do with us almost, basically. He's like before the world, he's after the world,
yeah.
master of the
It's a
world,
it's a constant. It's something that's like bigger than everything else.
bigger, and exactly. So that's quite distant. Yeah, that's like,
Yeah.
wow, gosh, he
Mm.
is
Yeah,
huge.
nothing can compare. Don't even bother. This is like this. This is
Exactly.
it. This is it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's a switch. Can you see in the beginning? And he is my God. Do you see that?
He is without being a. He's okay. Yeah, like well, I guess
Now, look at the
towards the end.
rest. Yeah, the second half. And he is my God, my Redeemer, a rock in my travail time of distress. He is my banner, my refuge, the portion of my cup the day when I call. Into his hand I commend my spirit when I sleep, when I wake. With my spirit, my body, the Lord is with me, and I will not fear. That's a massive change because there it's all suddenly about me and God. He's my God. He looks after me when I'm having a hard time, when I sleep, when I wake.
I guess it's like you have to give like context, and then you've got to start to go okay, well, that, and then apply relevance. Maybe I don't know. Like,
Yeah, so I think maybe the structure of Adon Olam is first realize how awesome and huge and vast God is and above everything. and then you'll really appreciate the fact that he cares about you. You know,
Yeah.
if the prime
And
minister walks in and he's like really friendly, but you don't know he's the prime minister, you'll be like, oh, it's a nice, friendly man in a suit. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
very nice, probably works in the city. Yeah. And if someone like gives you a nudge and goes, do you know who that is? Like, no, like that's the prime minister. Ooh,
oh, so he's the guy that's been sorting all this stuff out for me. And
he
okay, so I need to
cares.
think of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the one I've been emailing. So that's like this type of thing with God as well. Like God is like huge and vast and awesome, and he is my God.
Yeah. I mean, I guess everyone, you read this, so he's everyone's.
Yeah, that's why each person says. Exactly.
Yeah.
Each person. So maybe that's that's the structure of it.
And
First,
it's
God
funny
is
because
universal, then God is very individual and personal.
the first words of homage issuing from the lips of the Jew in the morning are the ones that he utters when a day's work is done, lie down to rest. So the first words, ones that he utters when he day's work. Huh? Yeah, the next.
So we are beginning chapter 11, page 117. This one is called Beauty and the Source of Shame. Just like we did now earlier, we did in terms of the intellect and the imagination, we're taking sort of concepts of the mind, of the heart, and examining them through a Torah lens. So similarly here as well, this is what we're going to do now where it comes to beauty and the source of shame, really understanding that concept within the Torah and things that we maybe already know and are obvious intuitive to us, but when understood in the light of the Torah, then we'll get the correct and deeper wisdom behind them. So on to page 117. And he begins as follows. We have studied the relationship between Ratzon, which is desire, and Da'as, which is knowledge, and between Seichel, intellect, and Dimion, imagination. Okay, so a lot of the interplay between these different things is what we've been studying up to now. Let us attempt to understand the relationship of the body, which is almost probably the most fundamental interplay that we have. The balance between body and soul, between neshama and guf, is at the heart of really everything that we do as Jewish people, everything that we are. I would say not just as Jewish people, by the way, as human beings, really. It's just maybe that we are more aware of it than others because of the life that we lead. But nevertheless, this relationship is going to be absolutely key. We've seen the connection between inspiration and application of that inspiration, or root and outgrowth of that root from a number of perspectives. How does the root, which in this case is the neshama, express itself in the physical, which is the body? Okay, meaning again, going all the way back to the beginning, where we spoke about the flash of inspiration, which then is followed by something that then goes into action, is put into action, and that takes a long time. So similarly here as well, in a way, you've got the neshama, which is the root and the cause and the flash and the inspiration. And then you've got after that the guf, you've got the physicality in the body, which is the manifestation of it in a material physical world. How do these two things, what's the nature, he says, of the tension between these two? How does this tension become a harmony? How could we make more of a harmony between our body and our soul? Many wonderful secrets are contained in this area. As one moves down from the more spiritual to the more physical levels, tension or disharmony between the inner core and the outer vessels becomes more apparent. Meaning now that we're talking about the less spiritual, i.e. before we were talking about intellect, imagination, we were talking about Ratzon, our will, our das, our knowledge. All of that is still at the very, non-physical level, right? We were talking all about sort of very intellectual or abstract concepts. As soon as you get down to like the body, that becomes a very, very physical thing. And here the gap becomes wider between the inner core and the outer. Because the outer is very, very physical. It's very, very tangible. You can feel and touch and taste and experience in a very physical way. Whereas your inner core, your neshama, doesn't have any of those things. You can't feel or touch and taste it, nor can it experience any of those things. Okay? So we have to see the harmony is going to be harder. The physical or outer layers, he says, begin to pull away, to rebel. The perfect relationship of inner plan and outer building tends to break down. Top of page 118. So now we can understand why unfortunately, as he says, you can often have disharmony. You can often have a person who will, I would say, ignore one or not even know that one of them exists, one or the other, and will ignore one or the other, right? You have many different religions that will focus only and purely on the soul and the spiritual, or whatever they feel is considered to be spiritual. They will focus purely on that and not on the body at all. You'll have many people that will focus purely on the physical and on the body and not even be aware that they have a soul, not even understand or believe that there is anything more than what meets the eye, which is the physical human body. He continues, maintaining harmony becomes a more challenging task. In the relationship between the neshama and body, the soul and the body, this problem becomes acute. Let us probe this as deeply as we are able. Like all pairs of inner form and outer matter, the pair of neshama and body should be in perfect balance. The body should reflect the neshama perfectly, should serve it in perfect loyalty. Never should the body stray after its own desires. It should be a vessel at all which obeys its controlled dimension totally selflessly. It should be a vehicle driven only from within, its very existence justified only as a loyal servant. Meaning that's what it should be at the most idealistic level, the relationship between the neshama and guf. It's essentially the car and the driver. The car doesn't go anywhere it wants on its own. Now, I say that thinking to myself, it's no longer such a good mashal, right? Soon the cars will be driving us. Maybe a sign of the times, isn't it? But the train, I suppose, for the moment, we could still use as a mashal. The train doesn't go anywhere by itself. It needs to have a driver. The ship cannot sail itself. It needs to have a captain. And it will follow the orders and the instructions because it doesn't have anywhere or any mind or desires all of its own. And that's really what it's supposed to be with the neshama and the guf. In fact, the Medrash uses it, the mashal of the horse and the rider. And he says that the rider is the neshama, that's the soul. And it's riding, as it were, on the horse, which is the guf, the physicality, the physical element. And it should be able to just, it's directing, it's dictating. And when it's well trained, the horse will go everywhere, the rider will follow. I suppose that's probably a better mashal, actually, because the horse against the rider as well. The horse can want to go in the opposite direction. It could even leave the rider far behind it and run off. And therefore, what it's supposed to be is the unity and the harmony that comes of the horse and the rider together, where they're working together and the horse is able to follow the directions of the rider, has a relationship with the rider where it understands it's subservient, where it understands that it's following, it's only a tool in the hands of the rider. That's what it's supposed to be with the guf and the neshama. The body is supposed to be the vessel through which we express our neshama, our soul. He continues, at the creation, the body of Adam was just that. That was what Adam HaRishon was. It was an ethereal, luminescent structure which revealed the spiritual content. Meaning it was like, Chazal talk about it and they say it was almost see-through. His body was almost see-through. Right? Adam reached from earth to heaven and glowed with purity. The Gemara states that even in death, the light which shone from his heels was brighter than the sun. His beauty was indescribable. Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, were pure people in pure bodies, and most significantly, they wore no clothes and were not ashamed, meaning they're adding something else to the mixture. When the body is so pure, when the body is purely just a reflection and it's glowing with the purity and the kedusha of the neshama, of the soul, then there is no shame. The concept of busha, of shame and embarrassment, does not exist. And therefore, Adam and Chava originally in Gan Eden, although they're not wearing any clothes, the Pasuk says, "V'lo yispo shashu," and they're not embarrassed. Vayushneim arumim, the both of them were naked. Adam ve'ishto v'lo yispo shashu, and they were not ashamed. What is the significance of them not being ashamed? The Torah tells us it's like a whole Pasuk in the Torah. Why does the Torah tell us that they're not ashamed when they're not wearing clothes? There's obviously a deep fundamental idea about this. It's something to do with their level. When you're at the level of Adam, when the body is merely the horse in the hand of the rider, which is the neshama, it's merely a reflection and a vessel and a tool for the spiritual, then there is no concept of shame. There is no busha at all. Why? He says, continues, when the inner reality is perfectly reflected in the outer, i.e., the soul is perfectly reflected in the body, when the spirituality of the neshama animates and energizes the body so that it glows visibly, shame is not possible. Shame is the pain of a human mind betrayed by a body. A core which is angelic deserves to be clothed like an angel. When the clothing looks animal, then shame is inevitable. Right? So when the body is at the heights at which it is, if you like, closer to the neshama, to the soul, then there is no shame at all. It's clothed like an angel. However, when the clothing is a much lower physical level of the body, then there is shame. Shame is the result of a breakdown between inner and outer dimensions. Again, the inner being the neshama and the outer being the guf, the body. Truth and beauty demand that the inside is represented accurately on the outside. When the outside betrays the inside, it demeans and shames it most intensely. Which means that that feeling of shame when a person is not wearing clothes is coming from the person's neshama feeling betrayed by the body. The soul is betrayed by the body. There's a dissonance between the inner and outer dimensions of the human being, and that's what shame comes from. That is what shame is by definition. He continues, let us understand. Bottom page 118. When Adam and Chava were created, they were not ashamed originally, because the vessels of their bodies perfectly reflected their neshama. The body was faithful to the neshama entirely. But sin changed all of that. When they sinned, they ate from the Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge. Sin was a surrender to the body. Sin made the human a part of physicality instead of remaining in his proper relationship to the physical, i.e., above it. With their sin, Adam and Chava crashed to the lowest level of the physical universe and became subject to the material instead of remaining masters of it. An angelic core is condemned to move in a body indistinguishable from an animal. That is shame. Meaning it's only after the sin, when our guf, our physicality, is lowered to the level, the same level as the rest of the world, of the animal world, then there is a shame because there's this divide between our soul and our body. Adam and Chava felt the most acute shame imaginable in their lowered state, and they were aware that they had caused it. That is the real heart of shame. The body had been allowed to speak, and it had taken over entirely, meaning they followed the body for their desire and they did the sin. No longer was it a faithful servant, it had become a master. He continues, breakdown between inner and outer. This is the source of all moral pain. Interesting statement. When a human being understands there's something painful here, morality has gone wrong, that's because there's a breakdown between the inner and the outer. The idea of sheker, falsehood, is the same. Speech, our communication, should reveal the hidden. Its function is to reveal outwardly that which is secret in the mind. When it does so, it's a faithful tool. Okay, the whole purpose of our speech is to reveal that which is inside of us. When we say that animals are not capable of speech, we say that human beings, when we were created, we are given a neshama. So the Torah says, "Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim." Hashem breathed within to us a living soul. And unculus, the translation, the most ancient translation of the Torah says that means a speaking soul. Ruach memalala, the ability to speak. So therefore, that is very much connected. The ability to speak is very much connected to our neshama, which doesn't mean that the whales don't know how to communicate, or the monkeys, or dogs, or various other animals. But what it means is that their speech cannot express the neshama as a human being's speech is able and supposed to. They can communicate in a functional way. They don't express their neshama. And that's the true power of speech. The true power of speech is a person able to express what's inside on the out. And that's, by the way, that's how the truth is. That's when you connect to a person. You know, we had these soldiers here last Shabbos. Some of you I know were there at the Suda Shlishis. And we had 14 soldiers there. And people were asking them questions. And some of the things that they shared were deeply personal. They were, you know, and obviously of their own volition, of their own will. I was very impressed, actually. Firstly, how in touch they were with themselves and with their emotions. And so, despite the fact these are big, obviously big, tough men, they're soldiers, very in touch with themselves. And secondly, the fact that they were prepared to share that. One of them, and something that stuck in my mind, I'm sure for others as well, they asked him about how, was it difficult coming home? Because you've just been on fighting on the battlefield in the war zones and with bullets flying over your head and shooting bullets back to try and kill the enemy. And then you come back home and you're embracing your family all of a sudden, and you're the loving husband and you're the caring father. And, how do you go between this? And he said once they were let out for 48 hours. They got 48, they were told you can go home for 48 hours, then you've got to come back. So what did he do in the 48 hours? He basically obviously sort of had a wash and had a bit of a rest. And he hugged his kids and he hugged his wife. And he said, as he dropped his children off to school, he thought to himself, I must be mad. Here I am, dropping them off to school. I don't know if I'll ever see them again. And I'm going back to the war zone. As one of them put it to me, Gehinnom, as he put it, going into Gaza, back to Gehinnom. And just that sharing of what was inside, when this young soldier shared what that feeling is like, even as I'm sharing it, and you're hearing it secondhand, right? Your neshama can connect to that because it's clear that that was shared from someone else's neshama. And therefore, it's not just skin deep. It's not just information that you hear as you hear other information, but it's something that goes, right? As Chazal say, Dvarim hayotzim min halev, words that come out from the heart, nichnasim el halev, then they go into the heart of the person. And that's what speech is supposed to be. Speech is supposed to be a person who's able to express their neshama, what's inside of them. That's why it's not only when a person is expressing their emotions. If a person is passionate about their job, if a person goes into a meeting and really believes in what it is that they are, whether it's selling or leading or, the initiative or whatever it is that they're doing, that will come across. And if a person doesn't believe in it and they're simply doing it because this is what they do to earn money or because this is what they need to do to impress someone else, then that will also be apparent in the way that it comes across because they're not expressing themselves. It's not true speech, which is an expression of what's inside of the person. Now, how does this relate to us? Because obviously sheker, falsehood, is going to be that dissonance. If my speech on the outside does not reflect what is on the inside, i.e. what I know to be true, my knowledge, my intellect, my neshama, then that's going to be sheker, that's going to be falsehood. And once again, you have the division between inner and outer. That's what sheker is. He continues. When the words lie, when the tool of expression is used to misrepresent what is inward, it has become treacherous, meaning a speech is treacherous. Treachery is the immorality of using outward garb, clothes, to mislead. A traitor wears clothing which misrepresents the wearer, a turncoat. Indeed, true expression connects the inner and outer worlds accurately. It connects two minds, as we spoke about. From my mind to your mind, it connects two minds. Lies break down the connection between the inner and the outer treacherously. This is the immorality of lying. The word sheker, which means lie, is a rearrangement of kesher, which is connection. You take something which is supposed to be a connection between inner and outer, between guf and neshama, you twist it and abuse it, misuse it, and you get sheker, which means something which is a lie, which is a falsehood, as he ends off, of course. Yeah. So therefore, once again, the source of the moral pain, whether it is in the fact that a person's physical is not connected to their neshama, to their spiritual, and that's the cause of that busha, that moral pain, or it is in terms of one's speech, that the speech doesn't reflect what's inside of a person. Either way, it's the division between inner and outer which causes that moral pain, as he puts it. We will end there for now. Please finish off.